let's go to the next impairment, which is sampling clock offset. So as we already know that sampling clock offset is
Pulkit,
because of the
just one
to mismatch in sampling frequency of ADC and at RX and DAC at the TX. Again, if we talk of the impacts, it obviously introduces some scaling, some phase rotation, and yes, some ICI. The impacts look something similar to what we had in CFO, but actually their nature is different. Let's see. Yeah, is my screen visible? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, actually there are, the power is fluctuating. Fine. So here I had just tried to model it using these equations. So assume Xn is the input signal. Yeah, I had written on top of this as X and Ts because I had also taken into account the sampling duration, which is the inverse of the sampling frequency. Apply SCO. In that case, this is how the impaired signal will look like. How? See, if Ts is the sampling duration at this end, then we are saying that SU is arising because there is some sampling frequency difference or there is some sampling duration difference. So let's assume that at the receiver, the sampling duration instead of Ts, it is Ts plus delta Ts. There is that delta Ts is actually the difference. Okay. Let's and here I'm introducing another parameter which is epsilon, which is the ratio of sampling duration error to modified sampling duration, or it will be like this. This is just for simplicity. And also when we are in literature also, and when we are actually doing some implementation, usually the epsilon or the SCO is specified in terms of epsilon, which is the normalized value, and also it is specified usually in ppm. Okay, just manipulating these equations, solving for Ts plus delta Ts, we can actually reach to this value. Okay, so from this equation, Ts plus delta Ts by Ts is actually this 1 upon 1 minus epsilon, and that's how we can write this particular case as this. Okay, so one important distinction between CFO case and SCO case is that in SCO impaired signal, delays actually increases with time. Okay, so let's also understand from this case. For example, for x0, it is I'm writing this relation. Here I'm trying to relate this and this. If this is x0, this is, let's say, x0. For x1, it will be 1 upon 1 minus epsilon. For x2, it will be x2 upon 1 minus epsilon. Okay, so if we plot them on a time axis, which I actually have done here, yeah. The above horizontal axis is without any SCO, and this is with some non-zero SCO. Okay, so let's write this. Okay, I'm assuming some initial phase shift, which is actually this one. Okay, so this is x0 upon 1 minus epsilon. Now this is x1 upon 1 minus epsilon. Okay, so in this case, the difference is 1 upon 1 minus epsilon minus 1. I'm only subtracting the time here. For this case, it will be 2 upon 1 minus epsilon. Okay, so that will be 2 upon 1 minus epsilon minus 2. Okay, so the difference is similarly. Third one is 3 minus 3 upon 1 minus epsilon. Basically, the difference is what here? In this case, it is this. In this case, it is twice of that. In this case, it is thrice of that. Sorry, did I miss something? Yeah, it will be like this. Okay, so here we can actually see that when the n, the sample index is increasing, the distance or the delay is actually increasing. Okay, so it is not like this. We cannot it is not like a constant delay at every sample. Okay, in this case, this N naught is actually dependent on N. That's the distinction in SCO and a normal time shift. Okay, so a normal time shift is what? A constant time shift across all samples. But because of sampling clock offset, the time shift is actually dependent on N. As the sample duration increases, the delay is actually increasing. This is an important point to remember when we are talking of SCO.
Although difficult to kind of visualize, why it's not constant? Like why is it shifting?
Yeah, because of like if you try to analyze this, like we have this. So actually, your question is actually answered here.
Sampling frequency is fixed.
Sampling frequency is fixed. Yes.
Yeah. So why would the offset be varying actually?
Can I go back to the previous slide? Okay, I think you're trying to explain about sampling frequency error, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I think that's what he is explaining. I think you can see the E is delta TS by TS by delta TS. So there is some error here.
Right.
So TS.
No, unless the delta TS is a random variable, right? Which keeps. So if that is also it is not random in nature in the sense that, see, what is happening is for the first sample there is a certain amount of shift. For the second sample there is a different amount of shift. Means the delta TS is assuming different values. It's almost like a random variable which has some distribution.
Let me try again. Now, in case of random, it will be totally disturbed. It is not random. So let me try it again. So let's say this is your ideal case. Okay. It is when the sampling frequency or the sampling duration is, let's say, TS. Now, change the color. Now let's say that we have introduced some sampling clock offset. In that case, instead of sampling it here, so yeah, and also it is TS plus delta TS. Okay, so instead of sampling it here, I will sample it here. Fine.
Agreed.
Okay, now the next sample will be sampled TS plus delta TS from here.
Correct. It should be a fixed distance.
Wait. Let me complete first.
Yeah.
Now the next sample will be sampled here, which is, so let me write it as TS plus delta TS from this. Next sample will be TS plus delta TS from here. And then this will be 2. Next sample will be TS plus delta TS. Sorry, the scaling may be wrong, but yeah, will be here. Now, if you try to visualize the differences, like this will be delta TS, sorry, whatever it is. If now you can visualize the differences from on green and red axis, you can actually see that the delay is increasing. Actually, the delay is accumulating in this case. Because of the delta TS, it will be 1 times delta TS, 2 times delta TS, 3 times delta TS, and so on.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's it's carried away, right?
Linear. It's linearly increasing.
Right. Yes, it is actually accumulating, because when we are saying we are doing the sampling, I have to take the sampling duration from the previous sample. So that's why TS plus delta TS from this. And then TS plus delta TS, not from one, not from the red. It will be from the green one.
Yeah, I think because when in the picture below, you are basically taking a reference to the, so every green
this is just to,
understood.
This is just to show the difference.
That is why, that is where I got. Okay, fine.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so regarding the signal model, we know that how we are relating them using this. So I have again solved for them, but I'll skip the derivation and I'll just jump onto the final expression. Right here. Okay, so this is the final expression. Actually, just a disclaimer here that this expression can be solved in multiple ways. For example, here I have only assumed single symbol, but that single symbol having multiple samples. For example, let's say n number of samples. But if we also take multiple symbols into picture, then this expression will have one extra variable, which is symbol number dependent. Okay, so this is just to one note that if you are solving or if you are extending this, then keep other parameters also in your mind. But yeah, let's see the impact again. So this is the impaired signal. This is the ideal signal. So here we can see that this particular thing is a scaling. Now this is subcarrier spacing, subcarrier number dependent and also epsilon dependent. This is the phase shift and also obviously this is the ICI. So yes, in this case, if I compare it with the CFO case, ICI is there, scaling is there. Also in frequency domain, there is some phase shift also. And also in this case, the scaling is frequency dependent. This is the impact of the SCO in frequency domain. Yeah, remember, this is in frequency domain. Yeah, you can, I will share this so you can go through the derivation one. And if you have any doubt, we can discuss that later also. But yeah, to highlight the signal model, this is the impact we can see mathematically. Okay, now let's see. Yeah, okay. In this case of SCO, again, there are in literature, we can find so many estimation techniques. But in this case, if we neglect, I have just taken some assumptions. So this is what, because I cannot show you all the estimation techniques. I just taken one. So let's say if we neglect ICI, then we can write the expression in this way. And also this estimation technique is in frequency domain. Okay, there are some techniques which can be done in time domain also, and there are some plus minus points of every technique. Yeah, in this case, again, if we take the correlation between the received and transmitted signal, also in this case, XK is my reference signal. Because it is like a pilot, which we say in VLAN. In NR, we say it is a DMRS signal. We are utilizing our DMRS signal here. We are not utilizing cyclic prefix in this case, which we did in CFO case. So in this case, if we do this correlation, we are just basically extracting the phase of this particular received signal. When we extracted the phase, we saw that, or we can observe easily that phase in frequency domain is actually linear with K. Okay, so, and the SCO is actually the slope of this theta K term. So to extract slope, what we can do, we can just differentiate it with respect to K. Okay, we can differentiate it, and hence the estimated SCO can be find out like this. Yeah, so again, this is just one technique. There are multiple techniques. Yeah. Fine. And yeah, if you have any questions on this, so this is actually a fair assumption, because this is also found practically and also mentioned in literature that usually, yeah, also because it depends on some parameters like subcarrier spacing and multiple parameters, that to ease out our analysis, for easy analysis, we can actually neglect ICI. And yes, there will be some degradation, but most of the time that degradation is acceptable. Okay, because
the ICI also presents if there is a sampling, if there is a TX and RX are not synchronized properly, then there could be, definitely there will be some sort of, if there is a problem in the clock, then obviously there will be a problem everywhere. It could be problem with, let's say there is some jitter in the clock, then there will be obviously the ICI will be there also there, then even the sampling carrier offset also be with the, even the ADC won't be working properly, that will be some jitter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in that case, probably how did you solve it? There is a
Arvind, your voice is breaking a lot.
Okay, 1 minute. I will connect with my headset.
Yeah. No. Maybe can you come closer to the mic?
Yeah, 1 minute. Okay. Now I'm audible now?
Yeah, manageable.
Okay. So what I am trying to say is, if there is a problem in both cases, let's say if there is a problem in the clock, obviously, then in this case, there could problem the ADC also not working properly, and also even the interference, the demodulation also won't be working properly. So in this case, both could be there.
Oh, you are saying if both means CFO and SCO?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have mentioned that before, that in practice, multiple impairments will be present simultaneously. Yeah. You are absolutely right. So actually, it is fine that multiple impairments, for example, phase noise, CFO, SCO, IQ impairments, everything is present at the same time. But yeah, for this session, for easiness of understanding, I'm taking one impairment at a time.
Oh, okay, right, understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if I combine multiple impairment, it will become too much complex to understand.
Yeah, actually, in this you mentioned something about the offset, the sampling points, right? What you're trying to convey there? In the I think couple of slides back, okay, each sample will be offset by a couple of points. Okay, I understood that that offset will be constant, right? So in this case, how the error will be increasing? All these errors will be constant, right? Even though the points are offset.
No. Errors is actually varying, right? It is linear with time. It is actually increasing with the sampling. Sorry, the sample index.
Can just go back to the equation where it is how it is
happening? No. Yeah, this is actually in time domain. This picture is in time domain, while those equations are in frequency domain.
Right. Okay. So
for
the diagram, which equation is mapping?
I can actually show you. I can actually show you one implication. Or wait, just let me try.
No, actually, I'm looking for the math equation. If you just show the equation, how it is impacting.
Okay. So it is actually, if you can start from here. So this equation actually telling us that the error is actually accumulating. Okay. So if I expand it, I can write it as n minus epsilon, right?
Okay.
In a normal case where we say that the error is constant,
I will
write it as n minus n
okay.
naught.
Yeah. So n will be keep on increasing. Obviously, the error also will be increasing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. Okay, so this is signal model is all about the sampling, the jittering the sampling frequency, right? That's what there is. Instead of, let's say, 1 megahertz or 2 megahertz sampling frequency, we have 2.1 megahertz, something like that, right?
Perfect. 2. Yeah, that is sampling frequency. Yes.
Okay, fine. I got it. The signal. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so this is how we can estimate it. Yeah. Yeah. Regarding the compensation, it will be the same thing. Like we can, we know in this case the epsilon. We can multiply it with the inverse phase, and also we can take care of the scaling also, because now we know what is our epsilon. That's how we can.
Yeah, so Pulkit, not to complicate it, but are we looking more? So your time domain and frequency domain. See, what you did in time domain was kept on linearly increasing the shift, right? So you are basically introducing frequency domain aliasing then. So you are basically.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, because that's what you're doing, right? Your shift. I mean, the sample that you'll pick up is from a different frequency. So if you're doing a.
I agree with you to some extent. So yes, there are actually, as I said, that this particular algorithm is in frequency domain. So to your point, the answer is, or to justify, or basically to answer your question, my answer would be that we should do this estimation in time domain.
Right.
Yeah. So again, I'll reiterate my point that this particular technique is in frequency domain, but yes, there are some techniques which are in time domain also. I agree. I agree to your point that we should do this in time domain. Yeah.
Okay.
And yes, there are some plus minus points of every technique. Maybe I can say that this is easy to implement, but yes, if I talk of accuracy, then I will prefer a time domain technique. So again, every time there is some trade-off between complexity and accuracy. So this is less accurate, but less complex also. While the time domain could be, I mean, based on the implementation or based on the how we are driving the algorithm, could be more complex, but yeah, it would be more accurate. Okay. So yeah, compensation, we can just, because we know epsilon, we can inverse it. Yeah, I have included this to just highlight the difference. But yeah, till now we have understood everything, because when we talk of time offset, it is just some constant time telling. And if I write it as, if I take its FFT, then it is something like 2 pi k n naught by n. Okay, and it will be easy to estimate. Just on the FFT, take the slope of this, it will give me n naught. Basically, when we are talking of SCO, there is some initial time shift, which is time offset, and there is SCO. So this is something like time offset plus SCO. Both are present in conjunction. Okay, and it will be a good exercise for all of you that you include both of them in this model, basically here. So instead of this, just write it as plus n naught and then derive this. It will be good. It will be a good exercise. So it's like when we take the slope of this, basically the estimation algorithm will be similar. There will be some extra term in this to get the constant time shift. Okay, so this I have included just to highlight that there could be some constant time shift, and yes, this is also present in our practical system. Okay, fine. Okay, any questions in SCO part?
So the CFO was pre-FFT. This was post-FFT, or?
In this particular technique is post-FFT. But there could be pre-FFT techniques also.
Mm-hmm.